I thought I was just getting ready for my sister-in-law's wedding. I had no idea that the text message lighting up my phone screen at 3 p.m. would unravel a conspiracy that had been forming around me for months. Dear, unfortunately, there's not enough room at the restaurant. No need to come from the bride's side, just groom's family. I read it 3 times, my hands gripping the edge of the bathroom counter. My mother-in-law was uninviting me from my own sister-in-law's wedding, casually reclassifying me from family to unnecessary guest with a single text. What she didn't know was that I'd already seen the restaurant's seating chart 2 weeks ago when I'd stopped by to drop off the wedding gift. There were 40 empty seats. That was the moment everything clicked into place. But to understand why, I need to take you back 3 months to when my life still felt safe. The life before. 3 months earlier, I was standing in that same bathroom, steam from the shower curling around the edges of the mirror, the scent of lavender soap still clinging to my skin. It was a Saturday morning in late spring, and Alex, my husband of 5 years, was making coffee in the kitchen. I could hear the familiar sounds, the grinder's brief growl, the click of the espresso machine, the soft jazz he always played on weekend mornings. Our apartment was flooded with golden light, the kind that made everything feel possible, optimistic, warm. We lived in a spacious 2-bedroom apartment in the Riverside district, the kind of neighborhood where young families walked their dogs past renovated brownstones and trendy coffee shops. I'd bought this place 6 years ago, before I'd even met Alex, using the inheritance my grandmother had left me. She'd been a formidable woman, a high school principal who'd saved every penny and invested wisely. When she died, she'd left me $180,000 with one instruction: buy something that's yours, Sarah. Something no one can take from you. So I'd bought this apartment outright. No mortgage, no debt, just mine. The title was in my name alone. Alex and I had discussed it before we got married. He'd been supportive, even proud. "That's incredible," he'd said, holding my hands across the table at our favorite Italian restaurant. "You're so independent. My mom always said a woman should have her own security." At the time, I'd thought it was sweet that he admired that quality. I'd thought his mother, Carol, felt the same way. How naive I'd been. Alex worked as a regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company. He made good money, about $95,000 a year, but he also had student loans and a car payment. I made slightly less, around $87,000 as a senior project manager at a mid-sized tech firm, but without housing costs, I was comfortable. We split groceries and utilities 50-50. We took turns paying for dinners out. It felt equal, balanced, modern. His family lived 20 minutes away in the suburbs, his mother Carol, his father Robert, and his younger sister Emily. Emily was getting married to her boyfriend of 3 years, a pleasant but unremarkable accountant named David. The wedding had been in the works since January, and I'd been involved in every step: the dress shopping, the venue tours, the cake tastings. Emily and I weren't best friends, but we got along, or so I'd thought. Carol had always been a presence in our lives, a forceful, opinioned woman who dressed in pastel cardigans and spoke in a syrupy voice that somehow always carried an undercurrent of judgment. She had a habit of dropping by unannounced, of rearranging things in my kitchen to be more efficient, of commenting on my career choices with phrases like, "Well, I suppose some women prefer work to family," delivered with a smile that never reached her eyes. But Alex always defended her. "She's just old-fashioned," he'd say. "She means well." She raised us on her own for 10 years after Dad's accident. Cut her some slack. Robert had been in a serious car accident when Alex was 12. He'd survived, but with chronic pain and limited mobility. Carol had worked 2 jobs to keep the family afloat, and she never let anyone forget it. It was her weapon, her shield, her justification for every intrusion. After everything I sacrificed for this family, I'd learned to tolerate her, to smile, to nod, to redirect. It was easier than fighting. But 3 months ago, things started to shift. The first warning signs. It began with questions, innocent-sounding questions that, looking back, were anything but. We were at Carol's house for Sunday dinner. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans cooked to mush, the same meal she'd been serving for 30 years. Robert sat in his recliner, half watching a baseball game. Emily and David were discussing honeymoon destinations. Alex was helping his mother in the kitchen, and I was setting the table when Carol emerged carrying a gravy boat. "Sarah, dear," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "Alex mentioned you own your apartment outright. That must be such a relief. No mortgage hanging over your head." I smiled, folding napkins. "It is. My grandmother made it possible. I'm very grateful." "And it's just in your name? Not joint?" Something in her tone made me pause. "Yes, I bought it before we were married." She set down the gravy boat with a soft clink. "You know, dear, when you're married, it's usually better to have things jointly, for legal reasons, for protection." "Protection from what?" I'd asked, keeping my voice light. She'd laughed, a tinkling, artificial sound. "Oh, you know, life, unexpected things. What if something happened to you? Alex would have such a complicated time with inheritance laws, probate. Wouldn't it be simpler to just add his name to the deed? Then it's both of yours, clean and simple." I'd felt a small flutter of unease, like a moth trapped behind glass. "We've talked about it. We're happy with how things are." Of course, of course." She'd patted my shoulder, her hand lingering a beat too long. "I just worry. A mother worries, you understand." Alex had walked in then, carrying a platter of sliced roast, and the conversation had shifted. But the question had planted itself in my mind like a seed. The following week, Carol called me at work. That alone was unusual. She usually texted or called Alex. "Sarah, honey, I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all. Is everything okay?" "Oh, yes, fine. I was just going through some old papers, and I found the original deed to the house Robert and I bought when we first got married. It made me think, do you have yours in a safe place? These things are so important. You should keep it in a safety deposit box, not just lying around." "It's in my filing cabinet," I'd said slowly. "It's safe." "A filing cabinet? Oh, sweetheart, that's not secure at all. Anyone could just walk in and take it. You should really get a safety deposit box. Or better yet, I have space in mine at First National. I could hold on to it for you, just for safekeeping." Every nerve in my body had gone on alert. "That's kind, but I'm fine. I have renter's insurance, and the building has good security." There'd been a pause, a slight shift in her tone. "Well, if you're sure, I just thought, families should help each other with these things." After I'd hung up, I'd sat staring at my computer screen, the spreadsheet in front of me blurring into meaningless numbers. Why was Carol so interested in my apartment deed? That night, I'd mentioned it to Alex as we were getting ready for bed. He'd been scrolling through his phone, barely listening. "She's probably just being paranoid. You know how she is about paperwork. She keeps every receipt she's ever gotten." "But why does she want to hold my deed?" He'd shrugged, plugging in his phone. "She probably thinks she's helping. Don't read too much into it." But I couldn't stop reading into it, because 2 days later, Carol had asked Emily, within my earshot, whether David was adding Emily to the title of his condo. "It's just smart, honey. You'll be his wife. You should be on everything." Then, 3 weeks before the wedding, Carol had suggested Alex and I refinance the apartment to pull out equity for a rental property investment she'd heard about from a friend. "You two could be landlords," she'd gushed over dinner. "Build wealth together. The property market is so hot right now." "We don't need to refinance," I'd said carefully, "and I'm not interested in being a landlord." "But Alex is interested, aren't you, sweetheart?" She'd looked at my husband with those wide, expectant eyes. He'd hesitated, glancing between us. "I mean, it could be a good opportunity." "We're not refinancing my apartment," I'd said firmly, my voice harder than I'd intended. The table had gone quiet. Carol's smile had frozen, becoming something brittle and sharp. Of course, it's your apartment, your decision. The emphasis on your had been like a slap. That night, Alex and I had our first real fight in months. "You embarrassed my mother," he'd said, his jaw tight. "She was trying to pressure me into refinancing my apartment for some scheme." "It's not a scheme, it's an investment opportunity that I didn't ask for and don't want. Why are you so defensive about this? We're married. Married people share things." "I share plenty. I share my home, my life, my everything. What I don't share is making financial decisions I'm not comfortable with just because your mother thinks it's a good idea." He'd slept on the couch that night, and in the morning he'd apologized. Sort of. "I'm sorry we fought, but try to understand. She's just trying to help. She wants us to be successful." I'd wanted to believe him. I'd tried to believe him, but a small, cold voice in the back of my mind whispered, "This isn't about success. This is about control." 2 weeks before the wedding, I'd come home from a work conference to find Carol in my apartment, just sitting on my couch, flipping through a magazine as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Carol? How did you get in?" She'd smiled serenely. "Alex gave me his key months ago, dear, for emergencies. I wanted to drop off Emily's bridal shower gift list. I thought you might want to coordinate with the other girls. I hope you don't mind that I let myself in." I'd minded very much, but I'd swallowed my anger, taken the list, and waited until she left before texting Alex. "Your mother has a key to our apartment." His response, "For emergencies. Is that a problem?" "Yes," I'd typed, then deleted it, then typed, "We should have discussed it first. Sorry, didn't think it was a big deal." But it was a big deal. It was a violation, a boundary crossed, a line erased without my permission. I'd had the locks changed the next day and told Alex I'd lost my keys and the landlord had rekeyed the unit. He'd believed me, or pretended to. And then, the week before the wedding, I'd made a discovery that changed everything. The point of no return. I'd stopped by Bella Vista, the Italian restaurant where Emily's wedding reception was being held, to drop off the crystal wine glasses I'd bought as a wedding gift. The manager, Sophia, had been setting up for an event and had invited me in to see the space. "It's going to be beautiful," she'd said, gesturing to the private banquet room. "We can seat up to 120 comfortably." "How many are coming to the Whitmore wedding?" I'd asked. She'd consulted her tablet. "They've confirmed 85 guests, so we'll have plenty of space. There are 43 on the bride's side, 42 on the groom's." 43 on the bride's side. Which included me. I'd seen the seating chart Emily had shown me just days before. I was seated at table 4 with Alex, his cousin Jennifer, and Jennifer's husband. So when, 3 days before the wedding, Carol's text arrived telling me there wasn't enough room and I shouldn't come from the bride's side, I knew it was a lie. But why? I'd stared at that text for a long time, sitting on the edge of the bathtub, my hands shaking. My first instinct was to call Alex, to show him, to demand an explanation. But something stopped me. A voice that said, "Don't show your hand yet. Find out what's really happening." So instead, I'd texted back, "Oh, that's disappointing, but I understand. Hope it's a beautiful day." Carol's response had been almost gleeful. "So sweet of you to understand. We'll send pictures." Then I'd done something I'd never done before. I'd opened Alex's laptop. He always left it on the kitchen counter, password-free because we trust each other. And I'd checked his email. What I found made the room spin. There was an email chain between Alex, Carol, and a lawyer named Mitchell Warren. The subject line, "Re-property transfer and marital asset assessment." I'd scrolled through with numb fingers, my pulse thundering in my ears. The earliest email was from 2 months ago, right around the time Carol had started asking about my apartment deed. From Carol Whitmore. To Mitchell Warren, Alex Whitmore. Subject, "Property transfer and marital asset assessment." Mitchell. "As we discussed, I want to move forward with the plan. Alex and I have agreed that the apartment Sarah bought before their marriage should be properly classified as a marital asset, which would allow us to proceed with the refinancing and equity extraction. Alex says she's been resistant to adding his name to the deed, but he believes he can convince her after Emily's wedding, when emotions are high and she's feeling more generous. In the meantime, I want to understand our legal options if she continues to refuse. My research suggests that in our state, property acquired before marriage remains separate unless it's been commingled or unless both parties agree to reclassify it. But there must be a way around this. Alex deserves half of everything. He's been living there for 5 years, maintaining it, paying utilities. Surely that counts for something. Please advise on next steps. I'm prepared to cover all legal fees. This is about protecting my son's future. Carol. My vision had tunneled. The words protecting my son's future echoed in my skull like a curse. Alex's response had come 2 days later, from Alex Whitmore to Carol Whitmore, Mitchell Warren mom. Mitchell. I think we need to be careful here. Sarah is smart and she's already suspicious after the refinancing conversation. I don't want to push too hard and have her shut down completely. Mitchell. Mom's right that I've been contributing to the apartment. Utilities, maintenance, renovations. We installed new appliances last year and I paid for half of those. We redid the bathroom and I paid for that too. Doesn't that give me some claim? Mom, I know you want to help and I appreciate it. But I don't want Sarah to think this is some kind of scheme. Let me handle her. After the wedding, when she's in a good mood, I'll bring it up again. If I can get her to agree to add my name to the deed as a symbol of our partnership, then we can move forward with the investment property plan. Let's table this for now and revisit after Emily's wedding. Alex. The lawyer's response had been clinical, detached. From Mitchell Warren to Carol Whitmore. Alex Whitmore. Carol. Alex. I understand the emotional investment here, but I need to be clear about the legal realities. In this state, property acquired by one spouse before marriage remains that spouse's separate property, unless 1. It's retitled jointly to. Marital funds are used to pay the mortgage. Not applicable here, no mortgage. 3. The property is explicitly gifted to both spouses. Contributing to utilities and renovations does not create an ownership interest. At best, Alex might have a claim for reimbursement of those renovation costs in the event of divorce, but that's unlikely to succeed given that he's also been living rent-free. Carol, I appreciate your desire to help your son, but I must advise against pursuing this avenue. If Sarah does not voluntarily agree to add Alex to the deed, you have no legal mechanism to force the issue. Any attempt to do so could backfire badly, both legally and personally. My professional recommendation, let it go. Best regards, Mitchell Warren. But Carol hadn't let it go. The next email, dated just 1 week ago, from Carol Whitmore to Alex Whitmore. Alex, I've been thinking. Mitchell says we can't force Sarah to add you to the deed, but there are other ways to secure your future. Have you thought about what happens if you two divorce? She'd get to keep the apartment and you'd walk away with nothing after 5 years of marriage. That's not fair. I've enclosed a post-nuptial agreement template. It's not too late to protect yourself. The agreement would specify that in the event of divorce, you're entitled to half the apartment's value, or at least compensation for your contributions. If she loves you, she'll sign it. If she refuses, well, that tells you something, doesn't it? Also, I think we should reconsider the wedding seating. I know this sounds harsh, but I think Sarah's presence at Emily's wedding might be complicated. She's been so cold lately, so resistant to family unity. I don't want her negativity affecting Emily's special day. What if we tell her there's not enough room? She can sit this one out. It might even send a message. That family is family, and she needs to start acting like she's part of ours. I'll handle it if you're not comfortable. Just say the word. Love. Mom Alex's response, sent just 3 days ago, from Alex Whitmore to Carol Whitmore. I don't know, Mom. Excluding Sarah from the wedding seems extreme. She'll be hurt. And what's the point? But there was no follow-up. No, I told her no. No, that's too far. Just silence, which meant he'd agreed, or at least he hadn't stopped her. I'd closed the laptop slowly, carefully, as if it might shatter. My hands were shaking so badly I'd had to press them flat against the counter. The kitchen, my kitchen, in my apartment, bought with my grandmother's money, suddenly felt like foreign territory. Like I was the intruder. He'd been plotting with his mother to take my home, to manipulate me into signing it over, or to punish me for refusing. And the wedding, my exclusion, wasn't about seating arrangements. It was a power play, a message. The worst part? Alex had paid for those renovations with money I'd given him. Last year, when he'd been short on cash after an unexpected car repair, I'd lent him $8,000. He'd said he'd pay me back. Instead, he'd used it to renovate my bathroom and then claimed he'd invested in our home. I'd sat there for a long time, staring at nothing, and then, with a clarity that felt almost supernatural, I'd known exactly what I needed to do. The confrontation begins. I didn't call Alex. I didn't scream or cry or throw things, though part of me wanted to do all three. Instead, I'd walked into our bedroom, pulled my suitcase from the closet, and started packing. Jeans, sweaters, sneakers, toiletries, my laptop, my jewelry box, my grandmother's photo album, the deed to my apartment tucked safely in its folder, my passport, my birth certificate, everything that mattered, everything that was irreplaceably mine. Alex had come home an hour later, calling out cheerfully, "Hey babe, you almost ready? We need to leave for the rehearsal dinner in 30 minutes. I'd walked out of the bedroom with my suitcase. He'd frozen, grocery bags in hand, staring. "What? Are you going somewhere?" "Yes." "What do you mean? The wedding is tomorrow. Where are you going?" I'd met his eyes and I'd let him see everything. All the anger, all the betrayal, all the cold, diamond-hard resolve. "I'm going on a trip with my parents. They've been wanting to visit the lake house for weeks, and I realized I'd rather spend the weekend with people who actually respect me." His face had gone pale. "What are you talking about? Sarah, this isn't funny." "Your mother uninvited me from Emily's wedding, said there wasn't enough room." He'd blinked, and I'd watched him calculate, scrambling for a response. That must be a misunderstanding. I'm sure she didn't mean..." "There are 40 empty seats, Alex. I checked with the restaurant 2 weeks ago." Silence. His mouth had opened, closed, opened again. Okay, that's... Mom shouldn't have done that. But it's not worth blowing up the whole weekend over. I'll talk to her. I'll fix it. Just unpack. Come to the rehearsal dinner. We'll sort this out. I read your emails. The grocery bags had slipped from his hands. Apples rolled across the floor. "You... what?" "The emails between you, your mother, and Mitchell Warren, about my apartment, about manipulating me into adding your name to the deed, about the post-nuptial agreement, about excluding me from the wedding to send a message." His face had drained of all color. "Sarah, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been conspiring with your mother to steal my home, that you've been lying to me for months, that you turned my money into your contributions so you could claim ownership of something I bought before I ever met you? It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Alex?" My voice had been quiet, almost gentle, and that had scared him more than shouting. "Explain it to me. Make it make sense." He'd run his hands through his hair, pacing. Okay, listen. Mom, she worries. She thinks you don't see me as an equal partner because your name is on the deed and mine isn't. She thinks it's a symbol of you not fully trusting me. And maybe she pushed too hard, but she was just trying to help you steal from me. It's not stealing. We're married. What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours. Except it isn't, is it? Because my apartment is mine, and you want to change that. He'd stepped closer, his voice turning pleading. "I just want to feel like we're building something together. Like it's ours, not just yours. Is that so wrong?" You've been living rent-free in a paid-off apartment for 5 years. You've saved tens of thousands of dollars, and instead of being grateful, you're plotting with your mother to take half of it. I'm not trying to take anything, He'd stopped, swallowed. Okay, maybe I should have talked to you directly instead of involving Mom and the lawyer. That was wrong. But can you blame me for feeling like an outsider in my own home? This isn't your home, Alex. It's mine. You live here because I allow it. Because I love you. Or at least I did. The past tense had hit him like a physical blow. Sarah, please don't do this. Let's go to the rehearsal dinner, get through the wedding, and then we'll talk. Really talk. I'll make this right. I'd picked up my suitcase. You can go to the wedding. Give Emily my congratulations. But I'm done being treated like an obstacle to your mother's plans. I'm done being the outsider in my own life. Where are you going? My parents' lake house. They've been asking me to visit. I'm going to spend the weekend with people who don't see me as a piggy bank. You're being dramatic. Am I? I'd opened the door. Your mother tried to steal my property deed. You helped her. You lied to me. You excluded me from your family, and now you're telling me I'm dramatic? He'd moved to block the door. Sarah, please, I love you. I made a mistake. I'll fix it. Just don't leave like this. I'd looked up at him. This man I'd married, this man I'd trusted with everything, and I'd felt nothing but a vast, echoing emptiness. Move, Alex. Sarah, move, or I'll call the police and tell them you're trying to prevent me from leaving my own apartment. He'd moved. I'd walked out, loaded my suitcase into my car, and driven away. I hadn't looked back. The eruption, my parents' lake house, was 2 hours north, nestled in the pine forests along the shore of Crescent Lake. My mother had answered the door in her gardening clothes, soil on her knees, surprise and concern flooding her face. Sarah? Sweetheart, what's wrong? I'd told them everything, every email, every lie, every manipulation. My father, a retired attorney with a keen mind and a protective streak a mile wide, had listened with a darkening expression. My mother had held my hand, her grip fierce and steady. That conniving witch, my mother had hissed when I'd finished. I never liked Carol. Always thought she had the eyes of a woman who counted every penny you spent. My father had been quieter, more analytical. The good news is, she has no legal claim. The apartment is yours, clearly and unambiguously. But Sarah, you need to protect yourself. First thing Monday, we're talking to my colleague Diana. She's the best divorce attorney in the state. Even if you're not ready to file yet, you need to understand your options. I don't know if I want a divorce, I'd whispered. I don't know what I want. You don't have to decide tonight, my mother had said gently. Tonight, you just need to breathe. Tomorrow, we'll figure out next steps. We'd spent that evening on the dock, watching the sunset paint the water gold and crimson. My phone had buzzed constantly, texts from Alex, voicemails from Carol, even a message from Emily asking if I was okay. I'd ignored them all, but the next morning, everything exploded. I'd woken to 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. Confused, I'd scrolled through them, my stomach sinking with each one. Emily. Sarah. What the hell did you do? Mom is hysterical. Alex is missing. The wedding is in 3 hours and everything is falling apart. How could you do this today of all days? Alex. Sarah, please answer. Mom called Mitchell Warren and now there's some kind of legal issue with the reception venue and she's freaking out. I need you to come back and fix this. Carol. You selfish, ungrateful girl. You've ruined Emily's wedding. I hope you're proud of yourself. I'd stared at the messages, utterly baffled. I hadn't done anything. I'd just left. Then my phone rang. Emily sobbing. Sarah? Is it true? Did you really threaten to sue Mom? What? No, I didn't threaten anyone. Then why is there a lawyer calling the restaurant saying you're claiming ownership of the wedding venue payment and demanding they cancel the event? Cold realization had washed over me. Emily, I didn't do that. I swear, I haven't contacted anyone. Then who? Her voice had broken. Oh my God. Mom called your lawyer, didn't she? She's making it worse. Sarah, please, you have to fix this. It's my wedding day, please. My heart had twisted. Emily had never been cruel to me. She'd been passive, yes, complicit in her mother's favoritism, but not actively malicious. She didn't deserve this. Tell me exactly what happened, I'd said. Through gasping sobs, Emily had explained. Carol, panicked and furious after I'd left, had apparently called Mitchell Warren in the middle of the night, demanding he do something about me. Mitchell, either out of spite or incompetence or sheer exasperation, had called Bella Vista and told the manager that there was a dispute over the wedding payment, which Carol had made using a joint credit card she shared with Robert. Mitchell had suggested that I might have a claim to those funds, since the payment came from marital assets. It was utter nonsense, legally speaking. But the restaurant manager, spooked and not wanting to be caught in the middle of a family lawsuit, had threatened to cancel the event unless the payment issue was resolved. Carol, rather than admit her mistake, had blamed me, had told Emily and Alex that I'd viciously called a lawyer to sabotage the wedding out of spite. I'm going to fix this, I'd told Emily, my voice steady. Give me 10 minutes. I'd called Bella Vista, asked for Sophia, and explained the situation calmly. There is no legal dispute. The payment stands. I have no claim to it and no interest in making one. Mitchell Warren had no authority to call you on my behalf. This is a family misunderstanding, and I apologize for any confusion. The wedding should proceed exactly as planned. Sophia, relieved, had agreed immediately. Crisis averted. Then I'd called Mitchell Warren. Mr. Warren, this is Sarah Whitmore. I understand you called Bella Vista this morning claiming I had a legal dispute over wedding payments. Mrs. Whitmore, I was acting on instructions from Carol Whitmore. Carol Whitmore is not your client. I am not your client. You had no authority to make that call, and you've caused significant distress to an innocent party. I'm going to be very clear. If you ever contact anyone on my behalf or on behalf of Carol regarding my property or finances, I will file a complaint with the state bar. Are we understood? There'd been a long pause, then quietly, understood. I'd hung up and called Emily back. It's fixed. The restaurant confirmed everything is fine. The wedding is on. Oh, thank God. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I'm so sorry. Emily, you have nothing to apologize for. Go get married. Be happy. This isn't your fault. But I'd had one more call to make. I dialed Carol's number. She'd answered on the first ring, her voice sharp and accusatory. Sarah, how dare you? Shut up and listen, I'd said, my voice like ice. You tried to sabotage your own daughter's wedding to punish me. You involved a lawyer who had no business contacting the venue. You lied to Emily and made her think I was the villain. You've crossed a line you can't uncross. I was protecting my son. Your son is a grown man who participated in a scheme to steal my home. And you're a manipulative, controlling woman who can't stand the idea that someone in your family has something you can't control. But here's what you don't seem to understand, Carol. I don't need Alex's permission to own my apartment. I don't need your approval to exist, and I sure as hell don't need to tolerate your abuse. You ungrateful... I'm not done. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go to Emily's wedding, smile, and play the role of loving mother. You're going to leave me alone. And you're never, ever going to ask me about my apartment, my finances, or my property again. Because if you do, I will make sure every single person in your social circle knows exactly what kind of person you are. I have the emails, Carol, all of them. Every scheming, manipulative, thieving word. Silence. And one more thing, I'd continued. Tell Alex that when he gets home tonight, his things will be packed. He can pick them up from my father's office on Monday. He's not welcome in my apartment anymore. You're divorcing him over this. Her voice had been shrill, disbelieving. I'm divorcing him because he chose you over me, over truth, over decency. He had 100 chances to be honest, to protect me, to be my partner. He chose to be your accomplice instead. That's not a marriage. That's a hostage situation. I'd hung up before she could respond. The transformation. That afternoon, while Emily got married in a ceremony I watched from a live stream her friend sent me, without Carol's knowledge, I'd sat with my father at his home office going through paperwork. Diana Chen, my father's colleague and one of the most respected divorce attorneys in the state, had joined us via video call. She'd been blunt, efficient, and reassuring. "This is one of the cleanest cases I've seen," she'd said, reviewing the documentation I'd compiled. "The apartment is clearly separate property. Alex has no claim. You have written evidence of his attempt to defraud you, which will play very well if he tries to fight the divorce or claim any kind of spousal support." "Will he fight it?" I'd asked. "Probably not. Men like Alex, weak men who operate in their mother's shadow, usually fold when confronted with real consequences. My guess is he'll try to negotiate, try to guilt you into giving him something. Don't." "I won't." "Good. We'll file on Monday. Irreconcilable differences, no fault. But we'll include a strongly worded letter outlining his fraudulent actions and making it clear that any attempt to contest will result in us pursuing legal action against both him and Carol." That evening, my mother made my favorite dinner: lemon chicken, roasted vegetables, wild rice. We'd eaten on the porch as the sun set, not talking about Alex or Carol or the wedding, just existing together in the safe, warm cocoon of family. Later, my father had found me standing at the end of the dock, staring out at the dark water. "Your grandmother would be proud of you," he'd said quietly. I'd turned, surprised. "Would she?" "Absolutely. She was a fighter, too. Did I ever tell you about the time the school board tried to force her into early retirement? They thought she was too old-fashioned, too tough on the students. She fought them for 2 years, took it all the way to the state superintendent, and won. She taught for another 8 years after that, just to prove a point." I'd smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "I miss her. She gave you that apartment for exactly this reason. She knew, women of her generation always knew, that a woman needs something of her own, something no one can take. She wanted you to be safe, to be independent, and you honored that. You didn't let them take it. I thought marriage was supposed to be a partnership. I thought I was supposed to share everything. Sharing isn't surrendering. Alex didn't want a partnership. He wanted ownership. There's a difference." I'd nodded, letting the truth of it settle into my bones. The reckoning. Monday morning, Alex had shown up at my parents' lake house. I'd watched from the window as his car pulled up, as he got out looking haggard and desperate. My father had answered the door. "Alex, you're not welcome here. I need to talk to Sarah, please." "She doesn't want to talk to you." "Mr. Patterson, I know I messed up. I know I did everything wrong, but I love her. I need a chance to make this right." I'd stepped out onto the porch then, crossing my arms. "You had 5 years of chances, Alex. You chose your mother over me every single time." "I didn't." "You did. Every time she criticized me, you defended her. Every time she overstepped, you told me to cut her some slack. Every time I tried to set a boundary, you made me feel like I was being unreasonable. And then, when she came up with a plan to steal my home, you helped her. I wasn't trying to steal. You wanted half of something you didn't earn, didn't pay for, didn't contribute to. What do you call that?" He'd flinched. "I call it wanting to feel like an equal in my own marriage. You were equal, Alex. We split expenses. We made decisions together. But you wanted more than equal. You wanted control over something that was never yours to control. And when I wouldn't give it to you, you tried to take it. I made a mistake. You made 100 mistakes, and then you made a choice. You chose to lie, to scheme, to manipulate. Those aren't mistakes, Alex. Those are character flaws." He'd taken a step forward, hands raised in supplication. "What do you want from me? I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling. I'll cut off contact with my mother if that's what it takes." "It's too late." "It's not. Sarah, please. We've been together 7 years. We've built a life. You can't just throw that away." "I didn't throw it away. You did. The moment you decided your mother's feelings were more important than my rights." He'd started crying then. Big, gasping sobs that might have moved me once, but I'd felt nothing except a distant, sad sort of pity. "My lawyer will be in touch," I'd said quietly. "Sign the papers, Alex. Let us both move on." "I'm not signing anything." "Then my lawyer will make this very public, very ugly, and very expensive for you. Your choice." He'd left 20 minutes later, defeated. The divorce had been finalized 4 months later. Alex had signed without contest, probably on the advice of his own attorney, who'd surely told him he had no case. I'd heard through mutual friends that Carol had been furious, had threatened to sue me herself, but her lawyer had presumably talked her out of it. Emily had reached out once, apologizing for her mother's behavior and for not standing up to her sooner. I'd appreciated the gesture, but I'd kept my distance. Some wounds were too deep for casual friendship. The new life. 1.5 years has passed since that weekend. I'm sitting on my balcony now, the balcony of my apartment still mine, still untouchable, watching the sun rise over the city. It's early spring and the air smells like rain and new growth. I got a promotion 6 months ago, senior director now with a team of 12. The extra salary has let me do some traveling, Italy, Greece, Iceland. Places my grandmother always wanted to see but never got the chance. I've been dating someone new. His name is Marcus. He's a teacher, kind and patient, and completely unbothered by the fact that I own my own place. When I told him the story of Carol and Alex, he'd been horrified. "Who does that to someone they're supposed to love?" he'd asked. I'd smiled sadly. "People who see love as leverage." I still see my parents every few weeks. The lake house has become my refuge, the place I go when the city feels too loud. I don't think about Alex much anymore. When I do, it's with a strange detachment, like remembering a character from a book I read long ago. I don't hate him. I just don't feel anything at all. Sometimes I wonder if I could have handled it differently, if I could have fought harder to save the marriage, to make him see reason. But then I remember the emails, the lies, the ease with which he betrayed me. And I know there was nothing to save. The man I thought I'd married had never really existed. Carol sends me a Christmas card every year. I throw it away unopened. Emily had a baby last month, a little girl. She sent me a photo. I sent a gift card. We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. Just 2 people who once shared a connection and now don't. My grandmother's photo sits on my mantle next to the deed to this apartment. Every time I look at it, I hear her voice. "Something no one can take from you." She was right. This place, this space, these walls, this life is mine. I earned it. I protected it. And I'll never apologize for that. The sun is fully up now, painting the city gold. I take a sip of coffee and smile. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be,